Thousands of Russian troops flee after Ukraine captures key cities. St. Petersburg district councilors accuse Putin of treason. Moscow's municipal lawmakers demand Putin's resignation. Top Russian commander might have been captured by Ukraine. A tone of change on Russia's state TV over Ukraine. Moscow professor warns of rising social tensions without victory. Putin is criticized by hawks who trumpeted his war. Reconstruction in Ukraine may cost $349 billion.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funding News. It's Monday, September 12th, and here are your top stories. When Russian forces hastily retreated in northeastern Ukraine last Saturday, a lightning Ukrainian offensive in the country's northeast reshaped what had become a grinding wall of attrition. In a matter of days, Russian front lines have buckled, Moscow's troops have fled, and one village after another has come once more beneath Ukraine's yellow and blue banner. Russia's defense ministry confirmed Saturday its forces have retreated from Izium in what it claimed was a pre-planned move.
Its recapture is a significant victory for Ukraine. After months of relentless grind, a remarkable Ukrainian offensive is pushing Moscow out of a region they've occupied.
The New York Times reported the victory in Izium came after Britain's Ministry of Defense said in a briefing that Ukrainians burst through as much as 50 kilometers between Russia's chokehold of Kharkiv. Ukraine President Zelensky said Ukrainian forces have retaken more than 30 settlements. Ukrainian troops have also captured Kupiansk, a major railway city that supplied Russian troops in the region. Analysts say it appears that Russia doesn't have sufficient reserves ready to stop the breakthrough or to hold these towns.
Councillor Nikita Yukarev in Smolnenskaya, a district of St. Petersburg, the city where Vladimir Putin was born, has accused the Russian president of treason. On September 7th, Yukarev and fellow lawmaker Dmitry Pelyuga petitioned the Russian parliament's lower chamber, the State Duma, to remove President Putin from office over the war in Ukraine. Pelyuga said after seeing many accusing their president of acting against Russia's interests, he developed the idea of sending the petition.
Both men stressed they acted entirely in accordance with Russian law. They said that according to Russia's constitution, Putin's conduct shows signs of treason. They mentioned 4 aspects in particular: the destruction of combat-ready Russian army units, the death and injury of young, easily employable Russian citizens, harm to the Russian economy, and the expansion of NATO upon the outbreak of the war, alongside the supplying of Ukrainian forces with modern Western military equipment.
Municipal deputies in the Moscow district of Lomonosovsky have appealed to Russian President Vladimir Putin to resign, saying everything went wrong since the start of his second term, and they believe a change of power is necessary for the sake of the country. In their appeal, the deputies emphasized that the aggressive rhetoric of Putin and his subordinates has thrown Russia back into the Cold War era. They said even the minimum wage has not increased to the level promised by the government.
The deputies posted their protocol decision on the Lomonosovsky district's website, including a 30-minute video of their meeting on September 8th. They said smart and hardworking people have left Russia en masse, and there is no trace of promised stability. Addressing Putin directly, they said, "Your views, your management model are hopelessly outdated and impede the development of Russia and its human potential." They disputed economic data showing the doubling of the country's GDP.
Images and videos shared on Twitter and Telegram purportedly show Lieutenant General Andriy Sychovy among a group of Russian troops handcuffed on their knees, with one social media user saying they were near Balaklia in the Kharkiv region. Nexta TV tweeted a screen grab of the alleged general next to a previous image of Sychovy in his regalia and said, "It seems that the armed forces of Ukraine captured not the usual lieutenant colonel, but the commander of the West grouping, Colonel General Andriy Sychovy."
Вооруженные силы Украины взяли в плен командующего группировкой Запад оккупационной России.
Newsweek reported that the capture has not been confirmed, and Newsweek has contacted the Ukrainian Armed Forces and the Russian Defense Ministry for comment. If verified, it would be a considerable gain for Ukraine, although other social media users have disputed if it is really Savochoy. Rights group Charter 97 said Savochoy is 53 years old, who gives orders in the war against Ukraine. According to Wikipedia, Savochoy has taken over the post in the Western Military District from July 2020 to September 4th.
Instead of touting a swift Russian victory at the start of the war, Russian pundits and TV hosts have been describing Kyiv's gains in the Kharkiv region, while complaining about the contribution of Western arms. In response to the comment made by the military expert Mikhail Kordolyonok, who claimed the capture of Kupiansk by Ukrainian forces is of exceptionally high importance for supplying all our troops in that region. The anchor Olga Skabiva responded, "It's very troublesome. Everyone is terribly stressed."
Newsweek reported that the co-host of 60 Minutes, which is broadcast on the channel Russia 1, Yevgeny Popov, who is Skabaeva's spouse, described how Russian troops were resisting an enormous horde that has been trained in the West. Meanwhile, Vladimir Solovov, a journalist with links to Vladimir Putin, said on his program, "It is understood that everything is difficult, but it can't be easy," Solovov said in the clip put together in a roundup by journalist and Russia watcher Julia Davis.
Moscow State University professor Vitaly Tritikov said that some Russian citizens may soon ask, "Where is our victory?" In TV programs discussing the Ukrainian forces' gains, Tritikov said, "Not everyone realizes the paradox of this situation. There is an enormous confidence in our victory. But in response, there should be real achievements. Social tensions could rise up, not because of the masses opposing the military operation, but because they might ask, why isn't it more active? Where is our victory? Where is the advancement?"
In the video on Twitter posted by Julia Davis, who is a reporter for the Daily Beast, Russia state TV host Yevgeny Popov can be heard responding to Trevoskov's remarks by saying, "I'll respond to all the nervous ones at once. Let's wait for the official statement from our defense ministry." Popov said, "This special military operation is a difficult man's job. Our heroes are doing what they can. Nothing is ever simple. The front line can move back and forth. What matters is how it ends."
As Russian troops fled while Ukrainian forces were blitzing, many of Russia's widely followed pro-war bloggers were angered by the Kremlin's false message. One of the bloggers, Yuri Patayoga, told his 2.3 million Telegram followers last Friday that if the military continued to play down its battlefield setbacks, Russians would cease to trust the Ministry of Defense and soon the government as a whole. Maxim Fomin, a pro-Russian blogger, claimed that Russian forces did not even try to resist as Ukraine's military swept forward last week.
The New York Times reported that while the Kremlin still maintains that the invasion is merely a special military operation, several bloggers insisted last Saturday that Russia was in fact fighting a full-fledged war, not just against Ukraine, but against a unified West that is backing Kiev. Some bloggers' anger over the Russian military's mistakes reached a fever pitch on Saturday. One called Russia's retreat a catastrophe, while others said that it had left the residents who collaborated with Russian forces at the mercy of Ukrainian troops.
According to a new report jointly compiled by the World Bank, the European Commission, and the Ukrainian government, which only covers the period up to June 1st, the cost of rebuilding Ukraine and its economy has already reached at least $349 billion. The World Bank report emphasized that around $105 billion is needed in the short term to rebuild social infrastructure such as schools and hospitals, repair transport links, and to prepare for possible energy shortages this winter.
The report estimates that the cost of direct damage is $97 billion, with housing, transport, commerce, and industry most affected. Disruption to economic flows and production is estimated at $252 billion. The report said poverty in Ukraine is projected to increase tenfold, with 1 in 5 Ukrainians expected to be living in poverty by the end of 2022. The most recent surveys had found that around 40% of people who had worked before the war have lost their jobs, while 50% of those working have seen a cut in their wages.
Funday News will help you sharpen your English skills and keep you informed about international current events. If you want to know more about our other programs and keep learning about the world's most important topics in English, please click the link in the description below to join Funday for free. And that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I will see you next time.